Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. This is a 2012 Chevy Silverado, and the issue it's having is the wipers stopped working. And they didn't just abruptly stop, they got real slow to the point where they just couldn't work anymore. If you helped them with your hand, they'd work a little bit and then they'd seize up again. It's a common problem with all the trucks on this platform, whether it be a GMC Sierra or a Chevy Silverado. It applies to all the trucks in this body style and possibly some other ones too. So let's fix it.
So the first thing you'll need to do is to remove the wiper arms from the vehicle. Using a pick or a screwdriver, there's a little cap here that you can pop up at the base of the wiper arm, and it'll expose a 15mm nut that actually secures the wiper arm to the wiper pivot. That's just the washer hose there I pulled off. Each one of those has the washer hose. So you just remove that nut, and then once you get it off there, you can, on this style wiper, you can actually just rock the wiper arm up and down and it'll break the taper on the shaft, and you'll be able to pull pull the wiper arm off the wiper pivot. And then I did the same to the other side, but evidently I didn't film it. And there's a ground strap going from the engine bay to the hood. It's a 10mm nut holding that on. Good idea to pull that out of the way just to give you some room when you're removing the wiper cowl cover. On each end of the wiper cowl cover, there's a plastic trim piece. It's held on by push pins. I'm just using a plastic trim tool and popping it up. You can use a screwdriver if you're careful. Or you can use one if you're not careful, if it's your own vehicle. Once you get that cover off, there's actually a little 7mm bolt. It's a little screw with a 7mm head. There's one on each end of the cover that you have to remove to get that cover off there. Once you get the passenger side popped loose, you actually have to close the hood to remove this one because there's a hole in the plastic trim piece for the antenna. You'll see I'll close the hood and then lift that piece all the way up off the antenna. And it too will expose a little screw with a 7mm head that needs to be removed. And I'm just showing you the little screw that I was talking about. There's one on each end. There's one there. There's one on the other side. And that's what I'm removing right now. This one goes in at a little bit of a different angle than the passenger side, so it was easier to get it out with the hood raised. There's two metal clips. I'm prying one off right there. They're just little push clips that go on that hold it to the pinch weld there. One on either side. Just use a screwdriver and pop those off. There you go. That's what it looks like. There's also a push pin in the very center. I didn't remove it because it popped loose. but I had to remove it when I went to put it back on. On the driver's side, you've got a washer solvent hose to contend with, and I find that it's easiest to disconnect it in the fender well. There's a little splice area where you can pull it apart, and then you just got to feed it through its path. There's a hole through the cowl to get it up in there. So with that out of the way, we can see the wiper transmission, and that's where the issue lies. The transmission on these sees up. There's three 10mm bolts that hold the wiper transmission, including the wiper motor, in place. I pull those three bolts out, and there's an electrical connector on the wiper motor that you can get once you pull it up, like right there, you'll see. Unplug that connector, wiggle it around, and there you go, you got the whole wiper transmission out. You should take note at the orientation of that linkage as it comes off the wiper motor. That's in the rest. That's with the wipers down. When you put it together, you'll want to put it together the same way. And again, this is just a spline shaft. A couple taps on the side of that with a hammer will knock that loose. If you bought one that had the wiper motor on it, then you can skip this part, but there was nothing wrong with this wiper motor, just the pivot seized up in the wiper transmission. There's three Torx headed screws that secure the wiper motor to the wiper transmission, so we're going to pull those out. I think they were a T30, I don't remember for certain though. So when you'll notice that the orientation is the same on the new wiper transmission as far as the linkage rod that comes right off the wiper motor. It's a good idea once you get this all done to run the wipers before you put the wiper arms on. Let them come into the rest position. That would probably alleviate any issues you'd have anyways as far as getting the wipers on in the right spot. Well, that nut is a 13mm. All right, with that assembled, we're going to start the reassembly process. It's exactly the opposite of the disassembly. There's no hidden tricks. It's pretty straightforward. Got it. I got it down in there. I plugged it in, and I'm starting all three of the bolts by hand first. And it's installed. What I'm doing right now is I'm running the windshield wiper motor to verify operation of it, and so that it parks in the proper spot. That way when the wipers go back on, they're right where they need to be. And there's usually witness marks on the windshield where your wipers always come to rest. So when you put the wiper arms back onto the pivots, move the wipers so they line up where those marks are, where the windshield wipers always sit when they're not in the on position. and tighten the 15 millimeter nut down, and 9 times out of 10 you're exactly where you need to be. And don't forget to hook up your washer hose either. Here's where I'm messing with that pin, that push pin. I actually have to take it out to get this cover to line up in place. And so I'm hooking up the washer solvent hose there. Pushing that little metal clip back on, and then I'll put the screw in the end. This is a pretty easy job. Anybody with a set of hand tools can do this job to their own vehicle. And I'm just reinstalling that end cap trim piece. And the passenger side, same deal. I'm going to push the little metal clip on, put the screw in on the end there, and put that trim piece back on. For whatever reason, I failed to record putting the wipers back on, but it's pretty straightforward. Just don't forget to plug in, each one of the wiper arms has a little washer solvent tube or rubber hose on it. Plug it into the tube that protrudes next to the wiper pivot so that your squirters work. I appreciate you guys taking the time to watch this video. If you haven't already, subscribe and check out my other content. I've got a whole bunch of videos out there similar to this. Thanks for watching, guys.